Hey everyone, I'm Dan Su. Just going to give you a rundown of my Swarm Rush deck. As you can see, I've already hit rank 1 this season, which is why there's no rewards over here. And then I've dropped all the way back down to rank 30 to grind some gold, which you guys might think is bad, but the devs recently changed it so that you pretty much only fight bots at rank 30 if you're highly ranked, which I'll just give you a quick demonstration. You see instant match found, and as you can see, the bot is just going to move really fast. Like if I concede right now, it won't even let me concede until it's my turn. So we know for sure it's a bot. We're not ruining anybody's day by grinding our gold down here at rank 30. So the deck that I'm going to show you is the one that I used to hit rank 30, and in fact it's a little more upgraded than before. My Vindicators was level 2 when I hit rank 30, I think, and my Restless Goats was also level 2. But other than that, not much has changed, so let me just give you a card-by-card rundown and then talk about alternatives for the deck. So pretty much this deck focuses on rushing the opponent down. If the opponent plays cards, we tend to play it in a different lane so that we don't need to trade. We can make it to their base as fast as possible, and then we play 2 movement cards. We play cards that push other cards, and we just get in for high damage, and then we kill them. Yeah. So green prototypes, great card. This is one of the cards that should be in pretty much every single deck you play. It's a 1 mana card that has movement, which is very strong. At level 1, even though it seems like you're playing a 1 mana for 0 net value, I would still play this card because if you get it in for base damage, then it's not really a 0 strength, and if you end up losing it to an opponent's card, then at least we got to move up. And at level 3, the way that I have it, you see it's pretty much at worst it's a 1 mana for 2 strength overall, which is super good. That's a 200% efficiency, which is pretty rare on most cards. So next we have North Sea Dog. This card is pretty debatable whether you want to include it. I think that simply in order to maximize your mana efficiency, a lot of the time, like if you have 3 mana and you play a 2 mana card, then you don't have anything to do anymore. North Sea Dog is pretty good filler. It doesn't move, but at least, like, for example, if you play this guy and then the opponent kills the other guy that you play, then North Sea Dog is still alive. As you can see, I haven't even upgraded him, and I could have a long time ago because I've never played him as my last card in my hand, just because when you play this deck, games shouldn't be lasting that long, and when they do, you've pretty much already lost. So Restless Goats, this is probably the MVP of the deck. 1 mana, 2 movement. It's so good. They nerfed Restless Goats down, but even so at level 2, so this would have been level 1 before pre-nerf, but post-nerf I used a level 2 Restless Goats and hit rank 1. The negative effect is pretty much negligible. Because if you're going to win, the 1 damage isn't going to do anything. If you're going to lose, the 1 damage also isn't going to do anything, because if you lose, you're going to lose by a landslide. So now that I have him at level 3, it's just super good. Love this card. Play it in every single Swarm deck. Okay, next up is First Mutineers. Pretty much a worse version of Restless Goats. Well, that's because my Restless Goats is level 3. First Mutineers is a common, so it should be pretty easy to get him to level 3. He costs 1 more mana. He discards a card from your hand, but other than that, it's basically the same thing. I think even if you are playing a game in the long run, you probably want First Mutineers in your deck, just because you can get in for finishing damage, and he is pretty strong because he's easy to upgrade. So Gifted Recruits. If you're not going to play First Mutineers in your deck, you have to play Gifted Recruits, just because 2 mana is like really easy to like just stick in there. Like on like turn 6, if you play a 4 mana card, you can play a 2 mana card also, and then especially he's easy to upgrade. Everyone who plays for like like a couple of weeks, should have him at like say level 3. Get some fusion stones, bump him up to level 4 maybe. I haven't done so yet just because I'm trying to save up to maybe upgrade something else that's funner. Um, but he's really not the best card in a rush deck simply because you want 2 movement cards, but you still need him in there just because he's so strong. Shady Ghoul. This is probably the card that a lot of people don't play in their rush decks. I've seen it happen before. And it's true because after you upgrade him, he doesn't get much stronger. He spawns something when he dies, which since you're going to be pushing him into the base, he will die. But it's still like slow enough, and the effect is random enough. Like if it moves backwards, or if the extra thing spawns backwards, then you don't really gain any ground the turn that he dies. So it's pretty unreliable, but the thing is he does have 2 movement, which lets you do a lot of really nice turn 1 plays. Like you can Shady Ghoul and then North Sea Dog, for example, which would be better than Gifted Recruit's North Sea Dog, just because Gifted Recruits only moves 1 tile. Or like if you have 4 mana turn 1, then you can like even do crazy stuff like Shady Ghoul, then Green Prototypes, and then play Restless Goats and just hit their base, which is really awesome. Okay. Next up is Forgotten Souls. So Forgotten Souls is pretty low value card overall, 3 mana for 2 strength. But the reason why he has to be like this is because his effect is so good, which he commands units forwards. And the thing is, oftentimes you'll be using Forgotten Souls to finish the game as opposed to just randomly playing him. So it's pretty negligible how much strength he has. Although it is unfortunate if like on turn 1 you draw him and like for some reason all your other cards are higher mana, then it sucks to play him. But other than that, he's pretty much an auto include for rush decks. You can't go without him. Similarly is Herald's Hymn. Although you guys are probably, most of you are a little more unfortunate, have a 5 mana Herald's Hymn or 4 mana Herald's Hymn. No matter what mana Herald's Hymn you have, you should be using it. Its effect is just too good. It commands everything in the same row, which means if you have one thing if you have one unit outside their base, then you can play another one. Like Green Prototypes into Herald's Hymn is such a good combo. For me, this is a 4+2 that's 6 damage off the bat for 4 mana. And if you already have another unit there, then that's even better. This is definitely a card that I would prioritize upgrading just because it's so good. Next up is Mischiefs. So Mischiefs, before they buffed it, was actually 3 mana for a 1 strength unit at level 1, and a lot of people weren't playing Mischiefs. I would say always play Mischiefs just because dealing direct damage to the enemy base is something that you usually cannot do. Like I have my Mischiefs at level 3, but even when I had my Mischiefs at level 1, I was running it. I was cycling it most of the time, which is pretty unfortunate, but that's only because I have so many good cards that I can play in this deck already. It's consistent. Cycling 1 extra card, it really doesn't hurt. And the 1 damage to the enemy base just gives you so much more flexibility because let's say you have a unit outside their base and you could do something like Forgotten Souls to move it in, but the thing is it leaves the enemy at 1 HP, and then next turn after they kill your Forgotten Souls because its strength sucks, you're not going to have a front line anymore. You can only play units outside of your base, and then it would take you a long time to win, or you might even lose because you don't have map control anymore. But if you have Mischiefs, that 1 extra damage can be the deal breaker. So especially at higher ranks when you can no longer just kill them with a couple cards, they have like 12, 13, 14, 15 HP. Mischiefs will help you close that gap. So I would say play Mischiefs. Potion of Growth. This card I don't think everybody plays because there are a lot of 3 mana cards that have similar or better value, and those are Fell Flares, which is 3 mana for 4 strength. The Fort of Even Rock, which is 3 mana for 5 strength, and I think that's it. Freebooters, no, Freebooters, whatever. But Potion of Growth is 3 mana for 4 strength, and the thing is, for most decks, this 4 strength is essentially 0 movement 4 strength because you're casting it on a unit that's already been played, so it's not like your unit's going to move. And other cards seem to be better because Fell Flares, 2 of the strength is immediately applied, which means that you're getting value out of it immediately. And Fort of Even Rock is just bigger numbers. You know, it's a 5 for 3, so that's like 167% efficiency. So most people don't play Potion of Growth. I would say for Swarm decks, it's a little different because Potion of Growth, when you play it on something with 2 movement, for example, then it helps you get something with high strength very close to their base. And if you use Forgotten Souls or Herald's Hymn, once you have 6 or more mana, then Potion of Growth just becomes like immediate, like 6 damage to the base. That's like Needle Blast. That's a Needle Blast power. So I'd say it's a pretty good card. Not one of the auto includes, but definitely heavily consider it. Okay, Warfront Runners is next. I think so. Once you have Warfront Runners that isn't level 1 just feels bad. A level 2 Warfront Runners, I would say run it in your deck. It's basically a slower version of First Mutineers. You'll see like First Mutineers at the same level is only 1 less power for 2 less mana, which is a huge gap. So Warfront Runners is not very efficient at all. But the thing is, you mostly play them as a finisher. It's similar to, I guess, Forgotten Souls in that manner. Like, you play it for the instant damage, and if you can blow them out right then and there, like Warfront Runners plus First Mutineers, both level 4, that's 9 damage. If you have them both at level 3, that should be 7 damage for 6 mana, which is still pretty good. So I would say, or it's pretty important to use, but there are alternatives. There are other 2 movement cards that I have not used in this deck. Vindicators, that's the last card. You'll notice it's a 6 mana card, which is strange to include in a rush deck, but the thing is, its effect is good enough that I think it warrants being in here. Its effect is similar to Mischief's, except it deals damage when it attacks an enemy unit or structure, which is essentially the same thing as when you play it, it deals damage, because when you play it, you're either using Vindicators to hit the enemy's base, in which case you're dealing more than 1 damage, or when you play it, you're hitting an enemy unit, and then you're dealing at least 1 damage. So, pretty much a worse Mischiefs in that regard, although you can play it for direct damage. It has 3 movement, so it can surprise the enemy. But most of the time, you use this when you're falling behind, and the enemy is really low on HP, 1 HP, 2 HP, and you can sneak in that tiny last bit of damage. Like I said, I did use Vindicators. I got to rank 1 with it at level 2, and level 3 is a little better, but I really think the amount of strength in Vindicators does not matter. I would use it at level 1 anyways, because usually we're playing it just to hope to get in that 1 point of direct damage. It is worth noting that at level 4, it starts dealing 2 damage, similar to level 4 Mischiefs, which I also do not have, but when I get there, I will tell you if it seems significantly better. Okay, so alternatives to what this currently is. So there's 2 reasons you have alternatives. One reason is you don't have the cards that I have here, and 2 is you think you have a better card that I'm not using in my deck. And if you think that better card is Collector Mirrors, then let me convince you otherwise. So Collector Mirrors is essentially that card that everybody either likes or fears if they don't have it. I think that it is a super good card. If you're playing a slower deck, you're definitely going to want to build around it. Add some extra card filtering, or no, that's not the right word. Add some extra card cycling. So that includes First Mutineers, that includes Freebooters, that includes Gold Rubbers. Gold Grubbers. Gold Rubbers. So people tend to play Collector Mirrors and then they immediately expect to draw that 0 mana card for value. The thing is, in this deck, we want to win on turn 3, on turn 4, on turn 5. After that, other decks start to shine a little more, and that's when Collector Mirrors also starts to shine. So overall, he's not worth it to play in this deck because we're playing someone that does nothing the moment we play it. We're playing the same level as Forgotten Souls. Forgotten Souls is 3 mana for 2 strength at level 1. That's Collector Mirrors. It's not strong enough to meet our deck. If you play it, you will not be able to win as fast, and as a result, you're essentially playing a different deck archetype. You're not playing the Swarm Rush that we want to play. Um, Another card that some people want to play is Ubis the Hunter, which I do not have, and I would play him if I did have him. I would probably switch out Vindicators. I think Ubis is very good. He can usually get in at least 1 point of damage into the base, and yeah, I just don't have him yet. So come on, Stormbound. When can I pull in Ubis? Um, all right. So replacements for cards that you do not have. Restless Goats is probably the biggest one, because the level 1 Restless Goats is pretty weak now. Although I think it would still warrant playing, just because, I mean, what the fuck? You're playing North Sea Dog, so play Restless Goats. Um, but if you don't have him, the thing is, if you look at all the low costing cards, we are already playing them. We're playing Green Prototypes. We're playing North Sea Dog. We're playing First Mutiny. We're playing Gifted Recruits. So it's very difficult to replace him. I would have to think probably one of the 3 mana cards that I talked about, like Fort of Evenrock, is decent, and I wouldn't go with Fell Flares. Fell Flares it doesn't have movement. Yeah, I would say Fort of Evenrock would be the next best thing, or Westwind Sailors, which is pretty good, but it's really just a worse Mischiefs. Um, Let's talk about on that note. Let's talk about Fort of Evenrock. So I don't actually play it in my deck, and a lot of people. It's a very efficient card, so you can play it like right outside the enemy's base, or two away from the enemy's base, and then even if they kill all the rest of your units, at least your front line is up there. And I think that's a good strategy. You can do that. But the thing is, instead of playing Fort Evenrock, you could be playing a unit that is moving upwards. You could be playing someone that deals damage. And so playing Fort of Evenrock is essentially slowing the game down, and it's buying the opponent time to come back and get you. So if you want to play a game that's slightly slower, it's not that much slower, then I would say go for Fort of Evenrock. And if you do play Fort, then you must also play Hearthguards, simply because it has really good synergy, and it is a great card, and the only reason that I am not playing it is because I don't have a structure. But Hearthguards is it's pretty strong. Could be a replacement for Vindicators. It's a 6 mana for 6 damage, and 6 mana for 7 damage at level 2, which at that point you can pretty much blow the opponent out with a Hearthguards plus like First Mutineers or something. But that's a more late game strategy. This deck tends to win before you can even play a 7 mana card, so I wouldn't really go for that. And then if you don't have Vindicators, I already listed some good replacements, like Hearthguards. Blue Sail Raiders is a pretty good replacement. But yeah, that's pretty much the only cards that I would really consider to put in a Swarm aggro deck. Let me see. Let me see if I'm missing anything. No, that should be about it. Oh, actually, okay. I've seen Swarm Callers. I don't like Swarm Callers. I mean, it's essentially you're going to be playing an average card unless you can play it bordering 2 friendly units. And at the point that you're bordering 2 friendly units, the chances of you doing that and actually moving forwards and playing Swarm Callers, as opposed to like being blocked by one of your own units, the chance is pretty low. And the thing is, mobility is very important in this deck. You want to always be moving forwards. You want to move around the enemy units. And being forced to play your cards in certain locations tends to not work out. Like, for example, let's say you have 2 units and there's 1 gap in the middle. Okay, and you can put your Swarm Callers there. But the problem is your Swarm Callers will then run into the enemy's unit, which is right in front of it. Well, sure, you do get extra value from the 2 units that it's next to, but then you do have to kill this unit in front of you, which makes you lose value. In a regular deck, I wouldn't call that losing value, but in this deck, which seeks to win fast, I would say that every time you hit the enemy's unit, that's wasting your own time. You're wasting your time, so don't do it. Well, so that's pretty much it. Yeah, let me know. Let me know what you think. I think this deck it's very strong. It's probably the only deck that can contest it right now is some winter variants of rush deck, or may possibly winter control. But I'll have to see because I didn't run into too many on my climb to rank 1. But next season is starting tomorrow, so I'll probably take this deck for a spin and see what happens. All right.